Folks, welcome back to the channel. The only channel not sponsored by Big Industry, where we tell you like it is. Folks, time to do a tier list video. You know, I'm surprised nobody else has done one because there's actually quite a lot of wonderful diversity, but this is the good kind when it comes to iron sights. And I think it's worth doing a buyer's guide. Really quickly, why do we do iron sights? Well, they have infinite battery life, folks. They will never crack. They have no lens to crack. They're just there, and we love them. I suppose eventually they will turn to rust, but by that point we'll all be gone anyway, hopefully, unless they invent immortality with the organs. You know, they're talking about that with the organs in China. But let's get started, folks. So without further ado, I present to you the correct opinion on iron sights in 2025. Let's get started. Number one, M-Bussy 2s. Guys, here's the thing about M-Bus 2s. They work. They're ugly as sin. They are kind of doo-doo to adjust. I've actually met gun owners that have had these on their gun their entire life and never adjusted them because they didn't know how. They didn't know you had to press the item down in front and turn this like a plunger. So they just never adjusted them. They just kind of hoped, well, gee, maybe I'll hit something today at the range. When they went to the range. I'm not kidding. So although these work well, when you get them on a gun as an OEM, you're kind of like, oh, really? The old M-Buses? And I bet people will continue to offer them, even though now we have the much better M-Bus 3s. But I actually think because of the M-Bus 2s, how ugly they are, these actually give people a bad impression for iron sights when they start their gun owning journey. And as we all know, it's about looking cool. This is fashion for men. The utility is okay. Like I said, I think we can do better in 2025. So for that reason, I'm placing the M-Buses in a solid C tier. Not off to a great start, but we will be off to a better start with these, the M-Bus 3s. Guys, I think there's kind of a reluctance to get behind the M-Bus 3s and talk about how good they are. I think part of that is because they're polymer. Maybe certain creators are thinking, well, I'm going to be judged if I come out like that. I don't think that's the case at all. I think these are fantastic sights. And I will tell you what, the fact that you can change to the thinner aperture, the fact that you can change, or thinner front sight post in the front, excuse me, and in the back, you can change from the larger and the smaller aperture and still have it folded flat. That is something that sights a multiple of the cost of these basic M-Buses cannot do, as we'll see going forward. For me, this is essentially almost the iron sight perfected. It's easily adjustable by hand. If I had to nitpick just a little, I would say it's a little bit easy to turn this lever here in the back to adjust windage left and right, which actually sounds like this, by the way. Welcome back to the BSR channel. But no, little M-Bus ASMR for you guys. We'll toss those. I think these are great sights, guys. I am going to put them in S tier for what they do and for the price. Keep in mind, all of this is also registering based on price. So I'm looking at this whole exercise. If someone came up to me, let's say a stranger on the bus or in the checkout line or somewhere at your church, whatever, and they were really excited to buy a gun and they showed you a picture of the sights they were going to get, and they said, do you think these will serve me well, Mr. Protraban? And they showed me a picture of X sights. I would say yes, random stranger who we kind of like, don't really fully know their abilities, don't really fully know them. I would say yes, these will serve you very well. So that is how I am judging all of these today. For me, M-Bus 3s are S tier. Alrighty, the Knights. So here's the deal with the Knights armament. The situation with these sights is when you have these ridges here, ridges mentioned, and you fold this down, there is actually nothing on the rear of this sight stopping this from folding down all the way. So what ends up happening is when you fold it down, these little ridges will eventually wear into your finish and make a little bare spot on your anodizing. It's not exactly something you'd expect from a 200, what is this, 240 now, dollar sight. So the only reason to get these is for the clone correctness, for the vibes. if you're doing a Modern Warfare build. But I do like them. I do like that you can dial. That's another feature we'll look at that not all of these sites have. You can dial up to 600 and a little bit beyond that with these. Some would say far more than you need for an average engagement. The other nitpick I have about these sites is on the rear here. You can't see it from here, but on the rear of them, it is a smooth scalloped edge. So what that means, it's like the Matek right here, and you can see it right here. So what that means is if you have a little bit of light behind you shining on the site, it can distort the circularness of the peep right here. So I don't know why that is even a problem. It's something that I would have thought we would have figured out by now. Maybe that's intentional, but I don't think it is. It doesn't really seem to serve a great purpose to me. So for that reason, the Knights Armament sight micro rear can only go into A tier, and I feel like that's being a little bit nice, but I know if we rank it any lower, the normies, you know what, it, we're gonna put this is my tier list. These are B tier. There are better options than this today for your build, and I will just say that. Everything I said also applies to this guy right here, except he's a bit of a chonker. There's no real reason to get this unless I guess you just had a hard time adjusting the wheel here, although you shouldn't really be needing to make on-the-fly adjustments. So why does this exist? There's really no reason. It is a solid C tier. Now we get interesting. This is the same version of the Knights micro rear, but look at this. They have actually a little stopper so that it doesn't beat up your finish too much, although in that one spot I'm sure it will wear down over time. The other thing here that we have with the Knights is we have a little aperture right here that falls in. It's made of plastic / rubber, and your average Marine is going to lose this in about 2 seconds, okay? But it's nice that it's included. You can go from the smaller precision aperture to a larger low light picture. I do like that it's there. I just feel like there's got to be a better way to do it than this here. However, all that said, this is a sleek, fast sight. Does not obscure much of your target picture at all. For this reason, we're going to place it squarely in A tier. Little bonus right here, similar looking sight from Midwest Industries. Now what they have chosen to do here is actually split the difference between CQC and precision. So you have a medium-sized aperture in the rear, and this is also a slim construction. It looks almost even slimmer than the Knights in some places, but you can see they borrowed the homework. So I think it's a tremendous sight. Our first S tier because of the ease of use, the simplicity. That's all you need for an iron sight right there, boys. Here we go, the Knights M4. So these are fine. These are fine for the clones. What you will find is that the metal that these are made out of, for whatever reason, is like not the best metal. I think it would come with the California cancer warning if you bought this. I don't know that for sure, but that's highly suspected by me. Because you can actually make marks in this with your fingernail. I've done so. The other issue is this is a full width front sight post, so it's kind of thick for aiming, although that is nice because with the standard front sight post, you can actually swap those out for any aftermarket posts you like, thinner ones, tritium ones, even Ultradyne style, which we'll talk about in a minute. But those are cool. I do think these are inferior to the slimmer sights. For the money, they don't do anything particularly well and take up a lot of front rail space, placing them in C tier. Here's another option from Knights. These are tremendous. You saw this on the Secret Service build that we looked at the other day. And these actually have a proprietary front sight post. You can see how much thinner it is right here. Only thing about these sights is they have a big round wheel right here. And what you saw in a lot of those Secret Service builds too is guys will actually wrap tape around the middle of that just to be doubly sure they don't lose their zero in their adjustment. I think that might be a little bit overkill, might be a little bit paranoia to me, but this sight is an extreme vibe. I can't deny that. And it has earned its place in S tier, in my opinion. Guys, how do we like the list so far? If you just paused it now, it might look a little bit suspect, but there is good reasoning behind it all, I promise. So we will check it out. I'm almost putting this in A tier, guys, because of this exposed knob there, but I don't actually think that's too easy to turn. I think guys are overblowing that issue, so we will leave it up in S tier. Daniel Defense, the peak iron sights. So what? Hey, why are they called Rock and Lock? Can anyone explain that to me? What are we rocking? What are we locking? I don't know. Daniel Defense, Marty can explain that one maybe. But these are a great set of fixed, again, basic iron sights. So these are the universal. It's a universal front sight post and the basic diopter in the rear. I mistakenly stated these were A1 style where they were not on the same plane. However, looking at the rear of the small aperture, it also says 0 to 200. So that means they are same plane aperture. Would have been nice if they were different just for the precision applications. I think that's a lost art that we're losing to time maybe, but the AR is so accurate out to 300. Maybe it is in fact not needed. I will always take a little bit of marker and write on this up here to help it stand out. The big issue with the classic M4 style front sights is your brain is supposed to ignore the ears next to it. They are not supposed to help you center the post in any way vertically. And I think people kind of forget that. I definitely do. It's kind of silly, and it's where something like a front hooded sight post like HK style makes a lot more sense. So just a side rant. These sights do everything fine. Nothing spectacular. The front sight post will need that tool to adjust it, or the tip of a bullet shell casing. So a lot of people gas these up, but I don't actually think they're anything special. They will serve you very well. However, for that reason, they will go in A tier. Folks, if you have your coffee beverage, feel free to raise it up and take a simultaneous sip with me in 3, 2, 1. Nothing like old coffee. I'm preparing for the apocalypse, the grid going down, by drinking old coffee and trying to enjoy it. Boys, next up, Scalar Works, fixed, A2 style. The advantage I'll say these have, and I know some of you guys may be running these, is they are very aesthetic, which of course it's all about looking cool. I think the only reason to pick these over the DD is if you want to double the amount of money you spend, or save on, because it's about looking cool, or save on weight. These are pretty light, although not significantly lighter than the DDs. They will show you that though on the page. And for all that, I think this is a proprietary front sight post. So you actually have less options there when it comes to aftermarket. The rear is a vibe though. This actually floats above the top of your rail, which is kind of weird to see. You may not expect that. You can actually fit a dollar bill or whatever under it there. So that's kind of odd, but I'm sure that's done for tolerance type issues. I think these sights are fine. I think it's an unnecessary flex for most people. If you're going for an ultralight build, then this would make sense. I'll put them in B tier for most people. Folding, Scalar Works folding iron sights. These are interesting because we have to rank them together here. I actually don't think the rear does anything particularly special. It's actually a bit big for what it is. You can see others are much slimmer. And the pinwheel type action is interesting. Now, the advantage here is it can close without interrupting anything. You can switch to the large aperture or small, and it will fold just the same. I worry about this getting stuck or like coming out at the 90-degree position, then the sight's useless. So I wonder if this is the best way they could have done that, but that's okay. The front sight is more interesting, however, it actually folds. You can see the fulcrum is right up here, right at the edge of the rail. So when folded, these are among the shortest sights that there are. So very cool. We have to rank them together though, because that's how I pulled the picture. So for the money, keeping in mind as well, and again, I do think this is another proprietary front sight post. So with all that in mind, I will give them a B tier. Possibly ranking them individually, the front sight would move up to A tier. Guys, how we doing? Row 2, looking good so far. Have we pissed off everybody yet? I hope not. I hope we're still here. I know you guys are. We're here, the real believers, because this is the truth right here, unfiltered truth. M-Bussies. Let's check it out. So this is one of those things, again, where it looks nice folded. Okay, out of the way. These will not damage your finish, as far as I've been able to tell. Nice big knob for adjustments right there. That's kind of the like optimized location as we see across a few of these different designers. And the one nice thing about the M-Buses is there is checkering in the back to prevent glare, so it's a really nice sight picture. But this here, if you fold this down, this just sticks up. So you can still use it that way, but it's sticking out kind of bothers me. It triggers me, it may trigger you. But it is, for all intents and purposes, a fine sight. We will go ahead and be charitable and place it in A tier. Remember the cost value proposition, guys. But there's something its brother does even better right here. So if you guys take a look, you can see on the back here a big, beautiful dial in which we can dial distance all the way from 200 up to 600. I love that feature on iron sights. It's just a little bit of extra assurance. Will you ever use it? Maybe not. But it's really nice to have, especially if your main sighting system goes down. You have to engage a target that you know or your buddies know is at a higher distance. You can just dial and send shots. Some people think that's an impossibility to occur. Basically, I encourage those people to give soldiers a little bit of credit and give our people some credit. Think about real world situations that could very well happen, especially if you know the land around you. So only silly thing here is if you want to use the larger aperture, again, it's folded down in front, kind of like this guy. But I can forgive that for the extreme utility offered by the M-Bus Pro LR standing for long range, if you consider 600 long range, which probably is for infantry. So we will put it in S tier, and I feel good about that ranking. Here's a interesting one, the M-Bus Pro front sight, standard M4 style hoods. I'm coming to like these style less and less as I use them more. The one thing nice about this is you can adjust it with your finger in front here, and it's not like a loose wheel at all, guys. Even with the M-Bus 3s, kind of got to get your fingernail on there and crank to get it to move. And these M-Bus Pros are even harder. So you can flip this to the thinner side for more precision, which is nice. And these don't take up too much space when folded. If you had to use these, I think they would serve you very well. They don't lock in the open position, some sites do, but they are a fine sight all around, and I have no problem placing them in A tier. Interesting offering here, and I will say this about the M-Bus Pros is, even though they use a proprietary front sight post, an aftermarket company has come out with tritium inserts for both of these here. So if that interests you, you can get tritium. That was like the goated setup back in the day. And I think it's going to make a comeback. I think it may, the tritium, just because it is a truly do-it-all type of situation. And it does have application at night. So here's the same thing, but it's hooded. So the huge benefit to having a rounded front sight post, which you'll see some of our offerings do, is it's very easy for your brain to pick up a circle, and it's very easy for your brain to centralize a circle within another circle. It's kind of like, I think Hop talked about this. You can see things that are a few degrees off, very obviously. Your brain can naturally pick up on beauty and order within nature, and it can naturally center a circle within a circle very easily. Now, there is some debate on whether you center the actual sight posts up here or the protective wings. However, it doesn't really matter because you can move this up and down within the circle itself, so that impact will still occur where you're aiming, in theory. So I very much like this. There is one circular front sight post that does things a little bit better that we'll talk about in the future. But for right now, no problem placing this as well with its flat M4 cousin in A tier. Let's talk about the offsets. The offsets are interesting. It does have a lot of the same features. You can fold down for the large aperture. You can switch to the precision aperture in front. I think they actually come with the precision tip, which is interesting. The thing about offset irons, guys, is it's not really like plug and play like some people think. Okay, you have to fold them up, you have to turn your rifle to that exact degree, and you can still have a cheek weld or chin weld depending on the stock surface area. Some stocks are going to make this easier than others, okay? But then you have to place this somewhere on your rail, and if you have an ACOG or offset RMR or larger scope LPVO, finding room for that can be a bit of a challenge, okay? So you're either like ducking out of the way of the ejection port in front, or you're all the way in the back. Now keep in mind, these can't go all the way in the back, because when this guy's folded down, he's going to impact your charging handle. So you've got to give him 1 or 2 slots in front of that to get him to lay down properly, depending on the charging handle you have. Mil-spec ones are going to give you the most room there, by the way. But even then, too, once you go up to charge the rifle, your depending on how you grip the charging handle, if you do the 2 fingers pinch method, it's kind of going to bother you a little bit. At least it bothers me. It's just something to get used to. Again, guys, it's going to impact the way you grab the charging handle a little bit. For a backup, these are fine. For a primary sighting system, I don't think these are all that, but it's better than nothing. I'm going to place them in C tier. Similar but different, we have the Knights Armament offset folding sights. Guys, these are kind of back because of Battlefield 6. I'm just going to say it, okay? They're very cool sights. People love them. And the one thing I do like here is you can still dial for distance. I feel like that is a valid application. You could even have a red dot set for 50 to 200 at 12 o'clock. Flip over to these guys for, say, a known distance past that, like 4, 5, 6. I think that's pretty cool. For that reason, not as a primary sighting system, but in this case, having them as a backup, keeping that in mind, I'm going to place them. Ooh, where do we want to place them? I think for primary, they're not great. So this is based on a primary type of a ranking. As a backup, they have more utility, but for now, I'll place them in B tier because of everything we've said. Now, Troy. Okay. We love Troy. They may have hired the sniper. I don't know what was up with that. Apparently, they had a whole response to that too, which was crazy. Here's the thing, guys. They're nice sights. For the money, the value is just not there. And with this too, again, if you fold to the precision aperture, then look at how this is set up, just like a seesaw here. So you fold the precision aperture up, the larger aperture is going to be coming down, facing towards you, so you can no longer fold the sight flat. If you're using the precision aperture, which a lot of guys would say is the main aperture, you might want to be using, some guys would say otherwise, but you don't have that option here with the Troys. Now they're very robust. Okay, one thing to keep in mind too, as you're aiming down these sights, guys, these hooded little situations right here are going to obstruct your view far more than a guy that's just hanging out, free balling like the Knights here or like the Midwest. These are going to obscure as little of your sight as possible. I would even make the argument that they obscure less than the metal housing of a red dot, okay? Or an EOTech. Might be controversial, but I'm going to say that. I'm also going to say that these are fine sights, but you could do better value-wise, and I'm going to place them in B tier. Other Troys coming down the road as well. Here we go, the front sight post. Kind of a iconic situation here. The nice thing about the front sight post, I think, is just how reliable and comfortable it is. It does mount directly to the barrel. Some say that's the most accurate method of mounting, considering some handguards are going to have some degree of flex. And Brass has come out and stated that as well with the bendy bill gate and other things. I think some rails are built different than others, and some have completely solved that problem with the center pin. But it is a valid concern. The one thing about this sight is the size of a standard front sight post. It's Great for Vietnam when it's all the way at the end of the 20 inches. Not so great for the M4 carbine when it's at that carbine length tube. I think that's the reason that aftermarket smaller posts exist. However, it's a very solid front sight and will serve you very well, especially if you want to attach a sling or bayonet. One or two shortcomings, which is why I'm placing it in A tier. Don't worry, we will redeem it very soon. Front sight, guys, with this option here. This is from Arms. This is the folding front sight post. I do indeed have one of these on my builds. They are tremendous. The vibe is there. Colt made some of these, which look similar, but are unobtainium now. Couple versions you can get here. And these hold your gas block and fold out of the way when you don't need to use them. If you don't think that's a big deal, well, it kind of is. It is kind of annoying to see the shadow of this in the bottom of your ACOG. If you have a higher power scope, it's going to be blurrier out of the way. But for something like a red dot or an ACOG, it does take up a good bit. I think this is the ideal expression of a iron sight for many people. It does take a standard post. You can change it out. I'm placing it in S tier, boys. Fight me on that, or don't. It's my channel. Similar to that, we have the PRI version. Guys, this is most iconic from Call of Duty and Metal Gear Solid 4. Great video games. Again, standard post that you can change out. These essentially are the same as the Arms. They're a little bit less aesthetic looking when folded, but more aesthetic aiming down sights. You get the classic look of that round front sight. For me, they are an S tier for a lot of the same reasons as the Arms, okay? Keeping on the Arms train, we have the 40L, another iconic sight for all of you Modern Warfare veterans out there. You may recognize this one. It does have accoutrements for 400, 500, and 600 at the top there. And the folding aperture that you can fold down. I believe it just folds this way. I don't know. I've never actually seen one of these IRL. Kind of a rare get. I know Espo, Agent Espo has. Lots of fun. These are iconic for the reasons I discussed. A little bit going on here with the hood. And there's your dial. For windage as well. I do think this sight is a bit big for what it accomplishes, but it is iconic and one of the greatest of all time, so I must include it in S tier. Guys, how's the list so far? I think it's looking pretty good. People working at Troy may not think it looks so great, but here's another option. This is another folding battle sight from Troy. And this one's big claim to fame is it is a triangle. So many years after Eugene Stoner, we finally invented another shape. And some people will say, this is quicker actually, they'll claim this, to pick up, especially when paired with a standard M4 style front sight post, than the circular HK style. They would say, you know, match up the circular HK with this, and then the sharper M4 style is a great match for this here. I think it's a great innovation. Some people will prefer one over the other. What I like about the diopter here is you'll actually see this is for 0 to 200, and on this one for the smaller you'll see it's written 300 to 600. So it is a nice other option just to give you that extra long range. Very thick posts on the side here to protect that. You know, pros and cons with that, and then we have the notch here so you can peep it over the top for CQC or ultra long range type stuff. I like these sights. When I was considering getting them, what it came down to for me was A, do I really know if I'll like the diamond shape, which you of course can't know before trying, and then B, do I really just want to limit myself to 2 options for sighting when there's others like the Knights that have multiple here from 2 all the way to 600. So for that reason, I don't know. I think they're fine sights. I will be charitable. No, I mean, no, I don't. I mean, part of this is value too, guys. And you know, if you spend the MSRP on these, I just think that's suboptimal, shall we say. So suboptimal, still nice sights. The B tier is like, it's fine if you have it. Nothing hugely wrong, but maybe not the smartest choice, which is fine. So that's where they'll go. Sorry, Troy. Don't forget Ruby Ridge, by the way, guys. Next up, we have the Matek. Guys, this is legendary as well. I hear these break a lot. I feel like that's kind of the similar situation to the M9, where they're just so clapped out, they eventually give up the ghost after being used by our great public servants for so many years. This is essentially, okay, you're trading bulk in the actual PEEP itself for all the bulk down here, and you still have all the adjustability that the Knights does. There's nothing really wrong with this sight. I could argue that everything it does is done better by the Knights Micro, although I don't think this will scratch your lower when you fold it down just because of how chonky it is. It is a bit of a chonky boy, which limits your sighting options. However, even a child could figure out how this works right here. 600. The Knights can go slightly over 600, which is cool. I don't think it's a optimal choice today, but if you had it, it would serve you fine. I'm going to place it in B tier. Whew, all right, last row, fellas. All right, folks, couple options from Scalar Works here. This is the Leaf for the D-Bell. There's a couple generations here. They apparently made this a little deeper in the second revision. I think I'd almost rather point shoot than aim with this. I mean, this is just like, it's cool to have. And if you're the high speed guy that has the laser and you have to have it at 12 o'clock, then I think it's a valid option for you. However, I'm barely bringing it out of the abyss. I almost think you're better off point shooting. This has to be our first D tier of the night. Second option, this was apparently made in conjunction with a fellow gun tuber. I think what they've done here is kind of interesting because if you take a look, the post is actually, they're set off to the, instead of the cardinal directions, they're shifted 45 degrees to your diagonal. So that is pretty cool. A nice way to fit everything in here. I don't think you'd be able to change the post here because of that, but it does look similar to a standard front sight post. Guys, this is meant to sit in between your full power PEC. You can see this is where the emitter would go. And I think this is pretty cool. It's a nice innovation. I don't know if most of you are running PECs. However, I think this would be a fine front sight if you were. At the risk of possibly running out of room in the B tier, I am going to place this there just because it takes up so little space. I think this is a solid front sight post if it is what you wanted to run. Okay, although it has a specific purpose. Barely making it out of the abyss. Guys, this is actually what it looks like. Shout out to a Redditor who posted this, but this is actually what it looks like trying to use the built-in Unity backup iron sights within the fast mount. I think each click is like 5 or 6 MOA adjustments. So this is your sight picture. We live in hell, guys. No, I don't think this is a great primary setup. For what it is, for a backup, I guess it works. I took this thing out when I had it and got rid of that little, you can just unscrew that and use a standard front sight. So then at least you have some radius. But again, this is in the category of you'd almost be better off point shooting. I'm going to have it join our buddy here in D tier. Sorry, guys. Another easy pick for D tier. We have the Elcan, the little nudges on the top here. Again, this is fine. The Elcan itself has a 1X. I guess this is for all the fog believers, the fog paranoid guys out there. We'll see. I mean, it could be a valid concern. One of the guys, I don't think you're typically moving from an air-conditioned environment to a really cold environment when you're not training people right. I think that's kind of a first world concern, at least initially in the field, but those are just my thoughts. I'm going to leave this guy down in D tier. Much better iteration of this, I think, is what Trichicon did with the ACOG. This is like the OG NSN #1, I believe, model cog. And this is iconic as well. Sometimes you'll see the side option. Those are only in certain models. This is the more common version. And what you'll see up here is this is actually a tritium. Can you guys see that? Yeah, this is a tritium front sight post. So that's pretty cool. And I've actually seen people use these. They look to be fairly on. I don't think it's great for a primary sight, but as far as a backup, it would do okay. I'm going to elevate this one above the Elcan Spectre into C tier. Much better than nothing. Now we get to our heavy hitters, boys. These are the Ultradyne C4s. So, circle within a circle, if you don't know, the entire unit here raises up on the front. Okay, so it is always going to be perfectly centered within that circle. That's where it's going to hit, as long as you do your part in 0. The front sight is actually adjustable for windage. They do that so that you can have a full range of adjustment for wind back here. And I think that's pretty cool. Probably overkill for most people, but still very cool. You'll notice a 3 here. You can dial this guy all the way to 600. So I think this would do essentially everything that you would need it to. The other kind of cool thing they have, guys, is you actually look through the front sight. It didn't poke out here on the image, but this is hollow, so that's the background. So it is just straight up circle within a circle. The brain does the work, and you can hit what you're aiming at. I think these are S tier, guys. Would love to get some on the channel. From what I've seen, they are S tier at least. So here we go. A2 carry handle. Guys, these are nice. Don't make it your whole personality. Don't be that guy. The one thing these don't have over the A2 and A3 and A4 is you can't dial these for elevation. That was a handy feature. You do have the 2 different apertures here, however, which is a cool feature, and you can swap these out for a tritium as well. They're very light, the retro vibe, the Colt Commando, all of it. I love it. Guys, we're just talking about utility in modern year. I can't in good conscience put these above in A tier, but I think everyone will be pretty happy with that. Moving on, we have the A2 and up innovations here. Now, we have a far easier adjustable dial here for windage. Very nice for the end soldier user. And you have a dial here that you can take from 200 all the way up to 600. Some early models with the full 20-inch barrel even went to 800, guys. So that is very cool. The longest adjustment range you can get on any iron sights that I know of. Okay, we're talking about like the ACOG drop reticle goes to 800. You can have that here in an iron sight. I think that's pretty cool. For all of your Patriot builds, Metal Gear Solid guys, this is necessary. And I don't know, golly gee, we're gonna make some room here because these boys are going in A tier, guys. We're just talking about modern builds. The average modern dude at some point may want to put something else on their rifle, and this does limit your options there. Yes, you can get the mounts. Yes, you can put the ACOG, you can put the dots, and it'll work fine, but it is kind of exposed that high up, and it is kind of a, it's kind of a vibe for like the retro if that's what you're going for, but I gotta put it in A tier. Sorry guys. I can hear them already, but it's my list. You have to remember it's my list. However, we have one final option. This is for those chads who could run a red dot, who could run an ACOG, who could run an LPVO, but choose not to. It's like the Shaolin monks. They actively choose to reject modernity and return to carry handle just because this is not what they are forced to do by means of construction of the upper, but they are choosing to do so, choosing to live as carry handle chads this must round out our S tier. And I'm proud to add it to S tier. Guys, respect the carry handle enjoyers. They are a truly different breed. Guys, that's our list. What do you think? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? Probably nothing, because my opinions are always correct. But let me know what you guys think down below. Again, our context is the random friendly stranger comes up to you at the checkout aisle and says, "Hey, mister, I'm about to buy my first AR, or buy an AR. This is their only AR. And these are the iron sights it has. How well do you think it will serve me?" This is ranked based on that perception. So let me know what you guys think. Nothing wrong with any of the A tiers. Nothing wrong with any of the B tiers. There's just that one or two things holding them back, preventing them from being a top tier recommendation. But as far as absolute peak, I think you're looking at it right here. So let me know what you guys think. Get down in the comments, join the channel, become a member of the Approachman Army, and we can hang out and play N64 together at my house. Guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. I got nothing else for you.